Alright, here we go, y'all. This is the last video of Gimp stuff for the week. If you want to try out the butterfly stitch, because I was saying so many times that I was going to show you guys how to do that, and I never did. If you, again, go to the homepage, MissBetty'sDayCamp.org, the top of the homepage, there's a link that says Virtual Camp Week 2. It might say Week 3 by the time this video is up. On that newsletter, when you click on that link, there's a thing that says, there's a part of the newsletter that says Gimp Lanyards. Click that link, it'll take you to this huge PDF, which opens on your web browser. And there is a thing that's called the basic stitch, the butterfly stitch, which is on page 52. Now let me just double check that that's actually referring to the right thing, because sometimes this PDF calls certain stitches different names than I do, so I just want to make sure that's right. Oh yeah, it is called butterfly stitch. So if you want to see how to do that, go to page 52, the butterfly stitch on the PDF. That one is really tricky to show you in a video with a camera, but it's a pretty, I think, easy stitch. It takes a little practice, but once you get down, once you got the pattern down, it's easier to do because there's only 2 strings you're working with. And with barrel and box, like I've been showing you, there's 4 strings or 4 strands that you're working with. So I think butterfly is a little tricky to start, but once you've got it, it can be easy to master. So anyway, so this is, having said that, this is called barrel stitch, which is very similar to box stitch. And this can be found on, well, you start this the same way you start box, which I showed you in another video, and you can find how to start box on the PDF. On page 16, it's called Starter Square Stitch. So you start this one the same way you start box stitch, or what the PDF calls square stitch. This one on the PDF is called Circle Stitch. So once you've started this, if you want to know how to do the stitch, you go to page 48 of the PDF, and it's called the Circle Stitch. I call this barrel because it looks like a barrel. So when you're done, it's going to look like this one right here. Oh, and this is a barrel one with a bead. So basically, box and barrel are the almost exact same thing, except you're changing the stitch in a tiny way. So I'll show you what I mean. So start off regular square stitch, or box stitch as I call it. And so normally, for a box stitch, as I've shown you before, you would just take your string and go straight across to the opposite. So that little blue nub there is part of this same blue string. So normally in a box stitch, you would just lay this directly across the blue. Same thing for the other one. You would just do a square, like a checkerboard pattern. You're doing the same thing, and I'm going to do one here quick so I can build up a little base. But you're just doing it on the, you might say on the bias. Everything's diagonal. Everything's just slanted slightly. So I'm doing one here real quick so that I have a little bit of a base to work with, because it's hard to work. I might have told you this in another video, but like starting them is hard because you don't have anything to hold on to, because there's just one little stitch there. But once you have a couple stitches in and you have a little nub you can hold on to, things get a lot easier. Okay. Did I do that right? I did. Okay. Sweet. Meaning, like, you know, once you start and you have like a little piece like this, about that long, and you can hold on to it while you're stitching, it makes life way easier. So if your first couple stitches are frustrating you, just hang in there. It'll get easier after a couple more. Oh, and barrel is slippery. Okay. I can do one more for you here. And again, this is going to be one that's tricky to see on the camera, so I really recommend using that link on our newsletter and on the homepage for Gimp. It's a really good resource. It's super wordy and there's a ton of pages, but if you find what you're looking for, it helps. I don't know about you guys, but videos are helpful, but I find it easier, especially when you're doing something like this that involves like multiple steps. A lot of times when you're doing an art project or a craft that involves multiple steps, you'll find yourself getting caught up on one step, and in a video, you have to constantly rewind and go back to that one step, and it's easier when you have just the picture in front of you and you can just stop and look at that one part of the stitch over and over again. It's easier than having someone show you in a video. Okay, so I got a couple down here. It's starting to wrap around and make the design I wanted to make. Ooh. See, now I was about to make a big mistake. So you see how loose that was? I was about to make a stitch on top of that, but the rest of my stitches are really tight. That would have made a huge bump in my lanyard, and I don't want that. That's why you tighten it like this, that each stitch does not come undone. Oh, my neighbor's making a smoothie or something. We got blenders. All right. So, there we go. Okay, now let me show you what I've done so far. Now we're cooking. Okay, so you can see now I've got a little bit of a nub. Now if you notice, you'll see that the colors are like, it's like a spiral staircase. They're going down and over, down and over. It's really hard to see. Yeah, that's a little bit better. See, as I twist it, you can see the colors are moving and going over one, over one, over one each time to make that spiraling, rounded effect. So here's how you do that. Ooh, this is going to be tricky to explain. So now, instead of going straight across, I'm going to cross over the opposite string of the same color. So normally here, when I would fold this back down for box stitch, I would just go straight across. Now instead of going straight across, I'm going to cross over the other white string and hold it there. Same thing with this white string. Instead of going straight up like that, like I normally would, I'm going to go to the opposite side of the other string and then hold it right there. So it looks, see, they're still not, the loops are still side by side, but now when I'm doing basically the same box stitch, it's going like this, like a little bit every time. Every time you do a new stitch, it's going over a little bit, over a little bit, over a little bit. And that's what makes that spiraling staircase effect. So this part's going to be really tricky to see. But when you're looking down through your loops, you can see the blue one. You're not going to be able to see it on the camera, but you can see where the blues would lay normally. You're going to do the same thing for the blues as you did for the whites. In my case, it's blue and white. Yours will be whatever color you want. I strongly recommend using two different colors if this is your first time doing this. So you don't want to use all the same one color for your 4 strands, because then you'll get confused as to what part you're working with. Same thing. You're still going to go over and under like you do for box, but instead of going straight over and under, you're going over and under to the opposite side of the opposite blue string. Same thing for this one. Over and under, pull it through. Make sure when you're pulling it through, see how twisty oh good, it's nice and flat. You don't want any kinks in your string. And when you're done the box stitch and you're about to pull it tight, it looks, barrel stitch, and you're about to pull it tight, it looks exactly like box stitch. You might think like, oh, I don't think I did it right. You'll know if you did it right when you pull it tight and you look at the stitch before it. So this white bump right here that's right on top of my thumb, that's the stitch I just did. If it was underneath this white bump or to this side, that means I did it wrong. You want them to always be moving in the same direction, spiraling around in the same direction. If you find that you're doing this and all of a sudden your spiral stops and goes the opposite way, that means you did a box stitch by accident in there. If I'm getting this right. I can never remember how the accidents happen, but I think if you do one of the barrel stitches as a box stitch and then continue to do barrel, it makes the spiral change directions. That might be wrong. There is a way to get your barrel, and I think it kind of looks cool. If you want to go for that design, you can make it so that your spiral, like the DNA strand, like changes, so it doesn't just all go. You can get it so that it ding ding ding, it goes back and forth. I think the way you do that is by putting a box stitch. Don't take my word for it. That's something I'll have to research for another week. Let me just do one more stitch here. And again, I know I'm not showing you guys a lot of detail. I really recommend for this one looking at the link in our newsletter because this is really hard to show you visually on a videotape. Videotape. Not 1985. Oh, good. I did it right. There we go. So I know I'm doing it right because all the colors are twisting in the same direction. So if your twist starts to go in the wrong direction, or if it starts stacking up and going in a straight line, that means you messed up. And you probably want to undo that stitch. So anyway, that's, the book calls it circle stitch. I call this barrel. But if you want to look up how to do this, it's on page 48 of the PDF. It's called circle stitch. And that's all I have for you guys for Gimp this week. So tune in next week, and I'll probably do this one. I'm nervous about these because I've never, ever really been good at these. And I ordered so much of it. Next week, I think we're going to do friendship bracelet stuff. And then maybe I'll get Jade to help me with these because she's probably better at this. This book, if you can find anything by Klutz, I think they stopped publishing books a long time ago. But when I was little, these books, anything by Klutz was really good. The pictures in here have like really good diagrams. This shows you how to do all sorts of different friendship bracelets. So yeah, so we'll maybe try this out next week. Also, if you can find them, I really recommend getting these. The ones I got, let me just see how much these cost. I think they were like $5. These were super cheap. Yeah, here we go. View order details. I got these in the mail. Oh, they were kind of expensive. They were $8. So for $8, I got 4 of these. And these are to put, this is Gimp, but you put your friendship bracelet in these little nooks and crannies and it holds it. Just kind of like we used the cardboard to hold it before. I don't have that up here with me. At camp we use cardboard, but these are just like a little fancier version. And they have little middles that you can pop out and feed through the middle to make like a 3D friendship bracelet. I'm not even going to attempt that until I practice more. So we'll try that next week. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks.